Okay, there we go. We're live. Uh, why do you, was there a reason why we missed last week's show?
Okay, that's weird.
What do you mean that's weird? I mean, like, was there a,
Well, everything was I there was no sound coming from your end. So I looked at the sound and apparently my sound was muted. Not my mic, but the sound.
okay, but yeah. There's just some, yeah, like, I'm trying to remember. Why did we skip last week's show?
Because you had to work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How did I forget? Shit, shit. I've been, days are really starting to get to that point where days just blend in my head.
Yep, that was me this weekend. Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh. Um,
One more thing about being at a Vietnamese wedding is that there are so many relatives who tell you that you should get married. And I only had one a relative who told me, "Don't rush it. It's not worth the rush." I meaning that if you try to rush something like marriage, you're only going to be unhappy.
yeah, even my dad was telling me that.
It was really interesting, though. Actually went to two weddings because my cousin wanted a traditional Vietnamese wedding and a wedding in a church.
Okay, so what's a traditional Vietnamese wedding like then?
Basically, you stand around. They have a tea ceremony, and the family of the groom, the bride and groom, give their speeches, and they're pronounced married.
Huh.
And but and after they're pronounced husband and wife, they serve tea to their parents.
I don't know why. For some reason, I imagined this would be long and drawn out.
Not really. I mean, it is long and drawn out compared to a Catholic wedding, but I suspect that the reason why he, my cousin, does not. I don't think he really cares for religion. He did to honor our grandparents.
Well, that's a sentiment I can appreciate at least.
Yeah. Although it's really interesting going to a Vietnamese church because no matter how basically if I how the Vietnamese language works when you're at something like mass, it sounds like they're singing even when they're not.
Really?
Yeah, it's largely because of how quickly every word gets out. So basically, imagine if everyone involved of church was Ben Shapiro.
Oh, come on, dude. Didn't
Uh,
have to throw your family under the bus like that.
no, it's not that. It's just that of how fast.
I know. It's just like you don't want to. It's just like I'm sorry, but I don't want. I don't think I'd want. I don't think I'd want to compare any member of my family to Ben Shapiro.
Well, you gotta go with what's known. And besides, I think I have a lot of my family members are fans of Ben Shapiro, so they'd take that as a compliment. So, sad state of Los Angeles then.
Say what? Say what?
Here's so guess what Los Angeles will be exporting eventually?
What?
Pre-20th century plagues. Because they have typhoid fever right now, an epidemic going on there, and now there are reports of the bubonic plague.
Hey, goddamn! I, I'm almost, I'm almost convinced that we're gonna have to wall out. Well, sorry, something in Discord just happened. I'm convinced that we're gonna have to wall off California
Well,
just to keep the rest. Just for like, I can almost see, martial law happening down there.
you want to know something funny? Okay, it used to be they had the Vietnamese area of Los Angeles which is a place called Little Saigon. It used to be pretty bad in terms of cleanliness, but now it's becoming the cleanest part of Los Angeles because now the next generation is taking over. They're making things a lot cleaner, a lot nicer.
Also, I'm gonna bet Little Saigon doesn't have like a homeless people problem.
No, because Vietnamese take care of each other, essentially. They're not communists because you can tell that because they named the area Little Saigon, not Little Ho Chi Minh, which sounds like a Trump insult.
Bro,
I can imagine they'll just for one day when Trump comes in, they just change the name of Little Saigon to Little Ho Chi Minh because Saigon was renamed Ho Chi Minh City.
yeah, I know that, but then it was changed back to Saigon.
Well, no, it's still Ho Chi Minh City,
Seriously?
but yeah, Little Saigon is the Vietnamese area of Los Angeles. So imagine the leadership of Little Saigon going, Trump's coming. Let's change it to Little Ho Chi Minh City. Just so that we can have a soundbite of him saying Little Ho Chi Minh.
Why not?
If there's anyone who needs to be insulted, it's Ho Chi Minh.
That is a real sore spot for you, isn't it?
I mean, I'm gonna say part of me is glad because I wouldn't be alive if there wasn't a whole the communists didn't win. But
At the same time, he sort of forced your family out of their home.
yeah, my grandfather was a major in the South Vietnamese army, and he remained tormented until his last day of the men he had to leave behind because my grandmother refused to leave without him. Apparently, if you were part of an allied military, you could be given a military funeral, but my grandfather refused. He said that because he left his men behind, he did not deserve it. A big reason why I would refuse to vote for John Kerry. And after the soundbite I heard of John McCain claiming as a prisoner of war that he helped carry out mass murder, I could not. You're fully justified in all the tweets about John McCain's death because that guy. I don't speak ill of the dead, but fuck that guy. Hope he's in hell.
I don't really, to be honest though, I don't think he could have really voted for John McCain anyway, since well, live in Arizona.
Well, well, for president, because he'd probably run for it again if he's still alive.
That is true. Alright. Okay, so after we get done with this show, I'm probably gonna get some grocery shopping done, and then later at 4, I'm gonna go catch the new Godzilla movie.
It's a good idea.
You seen that review that's been making the rounds about that guy who is like, okay, how do I put this? Here's an excerpt I found on Twitter. There's Godzilla rebranded here as a good guy. There's Mothra, who is a giant, disgusting moth. There's Ghidorah with the 3 heads, and then there's Rodan, not to be confused with Rodin, the sculptor. And I'm everything about that just screams to me this guy was trolling.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, even if you, like, let me put it this way, even if you'd never seen a Godzilla movie in your life, like, I cannot imagine you would describe Mothra as a giant, disgusting moth unless you were trying to piss people off.
Oh yeah, especially if you have candy. You didn't see? Did you see the?
Whoa! I did see. Hold that phone. Now this I have to see because I saw Liz's reaction. This is something I need to see. Hold that screen. Blah 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 blah. This isn't on her Twitter, is it?
No, it was on a stream. It was on Kumite.
Of course it was.
And she actually got into an argument with Tonka over it too.
I've only got Liz's reaction to go off of because, like, Liz. Put it this way: Liz said, like, disrespect Mothra in my presence, and I will end you.
Well, she probably would have ended Tonka.
Good thing Tonka's not on Twitter anymore.
Nope.
Oh god, that actually would have been funny to see Tonka and Liz getting a Twitter fight.
Yep.
That would have been hilarious. Hilarious. This is Tonka. This is what you're depriving us by not being internet people.
There's one thing I have to say. Going back to the whole California trip, there's one thing I have to say about Delta. It's so much better now.
Really?
Yeah. The chairs are comfortable. There's screens for you to watch movies on. And the movies are complimentary, or at least most of them are. And apparently there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I forgot to mute my phone.
Of course.
Okay. But yeah. I've actually been behind on the Kumite for a while.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Dan got in that chat.
Oh hey Dan. Long time
the
no
monsters
see.
were fantastic. The humans could have been written better by an 8th grader. Ken Watanabe is the only bright spot, and the cast he played his role with such sincerity. Well, nobody watches a Godzilla movie for the humans.
Unless you're a critic.
You're watching. You go to a Godzilla movie. You kind of know what you should know what to expect.
I really find it funny how critics still think that it has to be an indie film. One of those art films that they give awards to and such. Not every movie has to be about that. Some have to be about. I can be about giant monsters crushing stuff and fighting each other.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, that's like. In fact, I mean, like, that was kind of a failing of the Transformers movies because then because they wanted to focus on the human characters instead of the robots.
Which they rectified in Bumblebee, where they gave them a nice medium, but also gave the characters more. Gave the gave them more emphasis on the conflict between Autobots and Decepticons.
Yeah.
Also, I want to buy that Optimus Prime toy because that looks. His design was awesome.
Hence, we should trust Godzilla lines beat out every other word uttered by a human in that film.
Godzilla you can agree with because it's not the Cloverfield monster.
I'm just gonna wonder though because for me my ideal Godzilla is he's he's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy, he just exists. He's a force
Basically,
of nature.
basically he's the epitome of Bruce Campbell's line, "Army of Darkness." Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
No, he's just a well, yes, but more like he's a force of nature.
Yeah.
He's not on anybody's side. He's on his own side. And
Yep.
he just judges everything based on how much of a threat it is to him.
Oh yeah. Boy, how do you like the meltdown of comics Twitter over Robert Pattinson?
Honestly, yeah, he's there to do a job. Our presence is tangential, yes. But yeah, to answer your question though, you know what? People forget that back when Michael Keaton got announced to be Batman, people were actually petitioning that, and the internet wasn't even around back then.
Well, the one thing that I find really annoying is that there are people who are actually trying to say that Michael Keaton doesn't count.
Okay, what?
Yeah, apparently for some people, hating Twilight is more important than finding a good actor. And I don't think there's anyone who hates Twilight more than him.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think I saw Rage's video, and he said he kind of alluded to an interview where he said he did not understand the material, and I think the whole experience has kind of left a sour taste in his mouth too. Like he probably does not look back on that time of his career with any fondness.
The only thing he had, the only thing that he did smart during that time was with money, so he could do any role he felt like.
Let's see it.
Well, there's a reason why.
It's your damn phone. And it now sounds like Matt went silent.
Well, that was actually my Kindle that I thought was turned off.
Mute it, dude.
I turned it off.
All right, so yeah.
But although I'm going to be honest, saying that you don't understand material doesn't automatically mean that you hate, because Ian McKellen said that he didn't understand Lord of the Rings, but he still came back to do The Hobbit. Viggo Mortensen thought that the Two Towers and Return of the King would be straight to DVD films.
I'm just thinking though that I'm just thinking that I that that Robert Pattinson's he's due for he, he's due to find due to get a second win, so to speak.
Yeah. And I remember how everyone hated Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah.
I think as long as you don't get this whole you're worse than George Clooney, you'll be fine.
And I'll just say though, I think George Clooney could have been a good Batman had he been given a better script to work with or a better movie to work with.
Yeah, but boy, did that not turn out well.
Occasionally have proved me wrong.
All right, but yeah, from what I hear, what this Batman movie that Robert Pattinson's going to be in, it's kind of like a Batman Year One, which even right now he still looks kind of young. So
Yeah.
probably the best route to go is cast him as a young Bruce Wayne.
Agreed. You couldn't go any worse. And from how it seems, it's going to be a detective movie. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, especially considering that I think Ray just talked about a couple independent movies Pattinson's done outside of Twilight, which kind of show how much of a range he's got.
Yep. Oh boy.
Yeah, and I think most of them are like crime films or something.
Which will be interesting. And considering that it's going to be more of a detective film. It's going to be interesting how he translates that into Batman. Because the one thing that the movies have never really shown him, they've never really shown Batman as the detective. It's only just fight bad guys.
To be fair, that's kind of the. To be fair, it's kind of the fun part. But yeah, that's true. Actually, speaking of which, have you seen the Batman versus Ninja Turtles movie?
No, I haven't.
It's actually pretty good. And fuck, Batman nearly gets that shit beaten out of him by Shredder.
Of course. I, if it's anything, I think that one of the things about Batman is that he's a regular guy underneath that costume and about gadgets. Granted, he has the ability to fight outside of that, which does give him an advantage over most of the other superheroes who use tech for for their abilities.
Pretty much. But yeah, the detective part is something I don't think too many of the movies touch on. Like I think actually the closest we got to that was like the first Tim Burton Batman movie.
Yeah.
Like, that is about as close as we got to seeing the detective side.
Close, but not completely.
And it's also kind of funny because I feel like there were a lot of the Chris Nolan movies that kind of wanted to feel like they were. I know it's
I
not that were kind of noir influenced, but they just did not. They just didn't get it. They just didn't. They just didn't kind of go there.
I think part of the reason for that is because it wasn't completely Christopher Nolan writing it. It was also David Goyer.
Dan says he did detective things on Batman v Superman for what that movie's worth.
Yeah, that's true. But I think for the most part, Zack Snyder wanted to do a lot of stuff that he just wanted to throw in everything from comics into that movie. You had Batman's detective skills showcased at certain points. You had the suit he wore in The Dark Knight Returns, as well as the fight scenes from that comic.
Mm-hmm.
If only they had a better Lex Luthor.
Yeah, like they should have gotten Bryan Cranston for that. Could anyone have done? Seriously, like you just have to watch Breaking Bad to see that Bryan Cranston could be a convincing Lex Luthor.
Also, a new origin for Doomsday because what they did there was basically the villain from Superman 4.
Oh God, that was awful. That was just awful.
Yep. One thing I really liked about Batman v Superman for what it's worth was also the choreography because say what you want about Zack Snyder, he does have great choreography with his movies.
Well, the thing is, like, you got to start directing music videos. I think.
Yep.
So he kind of knows how to. So he kind of knows how to handle choreography.
Oh yeah. It's if it's any I, if it's anything, if you have a weak kind of story, just I think some really awesome choreography, some awesome fight scenes that will help move it forward.
Dan says when Snyder knows visuals, he just shouldn't write and direct.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I guess you could definitely say that. That if you saw Sucker Punch.
Now, what happened to that movie? Again, one of the things about him is that it's pretty obvious that he's a comic fan as well.
Oh yeah, but it's like, just though, like put it this way: if you go by, I mean, like I liked 300. That was good. And 300, 300 was good. I actually liked Watchmen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna defend Batman v Superman mainly because one, I haven't seen it. And that's pretty much it.
The movie flows better with the director's cut.
Isn't it a lot longer though?
Yeah. Well, that's usually what director cuts are. The longer version, where they add in scenes that were taken out because the studio said so.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like, it was long to begin with in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
It's like, isn't it like the director's cut like a 3-hour movie?
Pretty much. I just don't want to see any director's cut of the Transformers movies, especially last night, where the theatrical version is almost 3 hours long.
Oh, jeez.
And I think the reason why it was so long was because of all the advertisements that were thrown in there. That was one of the things that they got in trouble for Age of Extinction, was that they were sued over not having enough advertisement.
Enough product placements. You're
Yep.
great. Well, I don't think anything takes me out of a movie worse than something that is so obviously supposed to be product placement.
I wish Mel Brooks was still directing movies, because that would be something great for him to parody. Especially after a scene where in Spaceballs, where he, as Yogurt, brings out the merchandising shop with all the Spaceballs merchandise, where he just says it's for all the movies made for the movie.
That was making fun of that was making fun of the fact that most of Star Wars' money was made in the merchandise, not the movies.
Yeah, and then it became it was regular that there was merchandise for movies, such as you had Terminator toys, despite the fact that the Terminator was not for kids.
That is a, right, say, I mean, I can kind of see why. I mean, like, why Killer Robot, that would appeal to kids, I guess. But
Robots, yeah. But there are a lot of movies that have toys that aren't meant for kids. I'm not talking about the collector's toys that market towards adults. Robin Hood, I think it was Prince of Thieves, the one with Kevin Costner, was an R-rated movie, and they had they were advertising toys. So it's just it's interesting how merchandising works.
that was real, man. That's an odd thing. More Doom toys?
Oh yeah, there were Dune toys.
Oh my god!
There was a Dune coloring book, and no, not the adult coloring book that we know of today.
Man, of all things to make no kid follow that film. Well, no kid could follow that. I don't think even adults can follow that film, Dan.
I followed it.
Matt, the only way you can follow what goes on in that movie is if you had read the book already.
Oh please, that doesn't mean a thing. Mainly because there's a lot of things that didn't happen in the book, such as the weirding modules. Really,
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I remember in SF Debris' review of it, he said, like, the big criticism that's leveled against the David Lynch movie is that it's impenetrable. And he said, well, that didn't happen to me because I read the book and I can fill in the gaps mentally. So I'm not lost. So, which, well, by power of deduction, that leads me to believe that unless you've read the book, the film's impenetrable.
I think that a lot of the reasons why it wasn't very well received, and oh god, there was a Paul Atreides Harvester playset. But they made that movie to be a 5 hour long movie. They had 5 hours worth of footage that apparently, if the movie didn't do well, they'd recut it into a miniseries.
I don't know. I think when Ridley Scott was was originally working on it, his plan was to cut it up into 2 movies.
Yeah, which is what they're doing with this one. It's smarter smarter that way because there's a lot that goes on before the second half of the book of the story.
And trying to condense it just that takes away a lot. Takes away a lot of the depth.
Yep.
Either do it as 2 movies, or you go what the Sci-Fi Channel did and make it a mini series.
Oh yeah. Although the unfortunate part about the Sci-Fi Channel series is that it didn't age well.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The special effects from that miniseries are not. They do not look good anymore.
They were award-winning special effects at the time, though.
Yeah. Although another thing is that the difference between the actor who plays the Baron Harkonnen in the miniseries and the film is like night and day.
Yeah.
Like the actor from the David Lynch movie, he is so camp and over the top. Whereas in the miniseries, he's much more subdued.
The thing about the Lynch movie was that there's a lot of studio interference.
Yes.
If David Lynch were to do things his way, I think it'd be more comprehensive, a lot better.
Well, dude, there was a lot of stuff Lynch got to do his way, and that's what we got. Yeah, there was a lot of studio interference, but they also gave him a lot of freedom too. So like,
Yeah. Well, hey, Patrick Stewart taking a pug into battle.
there's a lot because like I said, there's a lot of executive meddling on that movie, but there's also a lot of lynchiness on it too.
Yeah. But it also has the one thing that the miniseries doesn't have.
But
Frank Herbert's approval.
I'm not really sure. You really sure about that?
Yeah, he wrote in a prologue to a collection of short stories that he enjoyed the film with the exception of the ending. He was
Even the part where
consulted on it too.
Even the part where Thufir has to milk a cat to get a poison antidote.
He didn't really go into detail about the movie itself, but his disappointment about what was left out, such as the Paul and Channy relationship wasn't fleshed out all that much because they cut out the scenes that made it an actual good part of the story. And they actually shot the scenes for those scenes too.
I'm just saying, like, there's still a whole lot about that movie that feels David Lynch.
Yeah, but basically what he said was that the dialogue was Frank Herbert's.
He also refers to it as his studio film. Said in a way that a chef would say McNugget.
Yeah.
He's more. I think you can kind of. I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point that he's more or less disowned the film.
Oh, no doubt, but there are still people who will defend it, and one of those critics that defended the film unfortunately no longer lives, Harlan Ellison. And the whole reason why he defends it was because it was a movie that wasn't meant to be made, but they made the attempt anyway.
I guess like I guess it was sort of like giving them credit for trying.
Yeah, and when he look at it and he looks at perspective, it was an honest attempt in his mind.
I guess if you can get credit from get credit for trying from Harlan Ellison, that says something.
Oh yeah, Harlan Ellison, if he hates something kills, come on, say it.
He was a guy who just he was sort of a guy who just did not sort of give a fuck. Like his opinion, what he had his opinion, he stood by it.
Yep, unless
And if you didn't like it, you could go fuck off.
unless you were stealing one of his ideas, and that's where Terminator came in. And it wasn't because he saw the movie and went, "Hey, that's my idea. I'm gonna sue." It was more along the lines of a list of things that happened, such as he had heard rumors that James Cameron said that he took the idea from an episode of The Outer Limits that Ellison wrote,
Yeah, I know.
and things got even more suspicious when Ellison was barred from the critics' screening of the Terminator.
Yeah, but he also, if I remember correctly, he also successfully sued Cameron for it,
Yep.
which is why now he has an unofficial credit in the movie.
Yeah, and Ellison has stated that if Cameron wanted the idea, he could just ask.
No, I think I'm willing to give Cameron the benefit of the doubt though, and say it was a coincidence because I think he said
Well,
he got the idea from a fever dream he had.
well, someone close to it. It's hard to say because there's supposedly someone who is closer to Cameron said that Cameron talked constantly about how he got the idea from The Outer Limits, and it was the Harlan Ellison episode mentioned them by name. So, to be honest, it's Hollywood. I don't really give anyone the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Okay, so. And then again, also he did successfully win the suit, so that probably says something.
Yeah. Nobody wins a lawsuit if it's on circumstantial evidence. God knows how many people sued over ideas they claim they had for popular movies.
Yeah, I think actually White Wolf actually sued the people from Underworld because there was a lot of similarities between Underworld and World of Darkness.
And they win.
They found about 80 instances in the case.
Yep. Although, at this point, Hollywood will will try to steal ideas.
Actually, here's one of the funny things though. Like back in the Attitude Era, WWF actually had a vampire-themed wrestler called Gangrel.
Really?
If you know Vampire the Masquerade, you know that's one of the 13 clans. And yeah, even Vince McMahon credited them for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. What happened to that Vince? I
No,
missed that. I missed that Vince.
Probably changed over the years of success.
Well, yeah, he's a billionaire, and although, and a lot of people say though he's also woefully out of touch with the wrestling crowd.
I'm not surprised because that's usually what happens when someone becomes wealthy. A lot of times people become woefully out of touch.
Which is odd because like in his heyday, he seemed to just have his finger on the pulse of where to take the industry. Because like he bought up all the territories and he put wrestling on cable because he knew that's where things were going back in the '80s.
Yep.
And then when he saw how tastes were changing, he then took the product in a more extreme direction with the Attitude Era. Now, of course, a lot of people also point to the fact that during the Attitude Era, he had actual competition from WCW. There was a period where they almost actually got put out of business by WCW.
Which is why competition is good.
Yeah. And since WCW though went out of business, he's had no one really to compete against.
Nope.
That's like, where else are they going to go? Indie promotions. I mean, you could go to indie promotions, but you're going to get. But where else are you going to get a product that with WWE's production values?
You won't.
Exactly. Like even TNA gave it a shot, but that company was mismanaged from the start. Although a lot of people seem kind of hopeful for AEW since their first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, actually did well.
Huh, wow.
Yeah, now they've got, and I think they've got a Tuesday show on TNT now. I think so. And not only that, they've actually even scooped up some of WWE's talent, and they're also growing some new talent of their own as well. So now I'm talking about wrestling. Is this about to turn into the Kumite without any of the cool people on it now?
Maybe.
Well, if it's gonna,
well, go on.
I'm the only one who's got any. I'm the only one who's got any wrestling knowledge at all. You don't know anything about this stuff, man. As far as I know.
Not a thing.
No, so it's like. So who wants to hear me talk about wrestling for hours on end? I mean, like I got no one to bounce this off of.
Sadly, but you know.
But yeah. I'm actually hoping though AEW does well.
Yeah.
At least presents a viable alternative to WWE because that's what wrestling fans are really starving for is something else.
Something.
Like I said, they could go. You can go to indie promotions where we'll get better wrestling, and objectively you will get a better product. But you won't get a product that has that WWE production value. That's kind of the thing.
Pretty much.
Because like I said, most indie promotions, they look like indie promotions.
So, yeah. I think that might change, though. It's kind of like with how things are going with indie films, of how much better their production values are getting because of the proliferation of technology from Hollywood.
Yeah, it's still like there's something to like seeing like a big budget production, like actually getting back on Godzilla for a second. Salem DM'd me over Twitter saying that he saw Godzilla King of the Monsters as like a big budget production of a Toho film. Yes, you can make a movie on an iPhone, but it looks like it was made on an iPhone.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I'm just saying.
Yep. So the new Beltech DLC is out now.
Not if you light it properly.
What? Oh,
That's what Dan is saying. I don't know.
okay. Well, I'm looking at the new Beltech DLC and looking at what mechs are out now.
Hmm.
And there's two new mechs, the Raven and the Javelin.
Hmm.
Which I'm surprised the Urban Mech is not one of them.
Really?
Because because it's called Urban Warfare. And despite what people think, the Urban Mech is good at where it's at, Urban Warfare.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too fast in urban landscape, otherwise you'll have a lot more collateral damage. And you don't want to arm them too heavily.
Okay.
Also, I've seen people take out assault mechs and MechWarrior Online in urban mech. Actually, it was actually kind of funny watching one of them where he goes head to head with assault mech because it turned to face him, and he somehow won.
Well, shit.
Yeah, yeah. Holy shit! I won.
Actually, I think one. No, actually, getting it back on the difference between like mainstream and indie.
Mm-hmm.
Our comics are essentially indie comics, but they sure don't look it. They don't look like they were like. I think the thing with indie is it kind of has this. Like when you hear the word indie, you kind of assume that there's this assumption that it's cheaply made.
Yeah. Although not anymore these days because when you think a lot of people think indie, it usually makes them think of anything that's not the big two.
Well, let me put it this way: in the case of like indie films, yeah, most of the time they are made cheap.
Yeah. Uh, Funny thing is, if you want to see some Star Trek fan films that try to do stuff that are above their abilities, Tim Russ, who was Tuvok in Voyager, has his own studio where he used to do Star Trek fan films.
Uh-huh.
And he'd bring aboard former Star Trek actors, such as Nichelle Nichols, Walter Koenig, the guy from Star Trek Generations who was the captain of the Enterprise for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And while they did not look bad at all, it was just when they tried doing all these flight, advanced starship tactics that makes it look really like an indie film because it doesn't really match up at all. A funny thing is, despite how much Vic Mignogna has said that he he wouldn't be he would not want to be part of a Star Trek fan film that would ignore CBS. He did take part in Star Trek Renegades, which was Tim Russ's pitch to Paramount to do a post Star Trek Nemesis series, as well as give Walter Koenig's character Chekhov a fitting goodbye.
Yeah, like but yeah, just but yeah, it's a lot easier to kind of at least sort of match like big two sort of production values in comics though. If you get the right artist, if you get the right art team behind you, you can make a book that looks just as good as a big two book should.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons why they weren't able to. There weren't any indie games that came out during Gamergate was because you could not get that kind of production value.
Well, for one, and like I said, I think I touched on this on one of the Wicked podcasts. Was that in Gamergate's case, there was kind of more of a barrier to entry, right? Because it takes more people and more resources to make a game than it does to make a comic.
Yeah, everyone Sargon tried making a game.
I think he abandoned that completely.
Yeah, he abandoned it and refunded everyone.
Well, that already puts some leagues ahead of certain other people.
Hey, Tank.
Hey, Tank. Yeah, I know, right?
But say, how do I put this in our case? Like, fuck, you don't even like if you can, one person could make a comic book that looks just as good as a big two book, like Troy, like Wangpo, like he does that all by himself. Wangpo looks just as good as anything like Marvel could have made back in its heyday.
That is true.
Leandro draws about as well as say like any of Marvel's top guys, like say Jim Lee doesn't work with Marvel, he works with DC. I'm trying to think, like he draws about as well as say like Steve McNiven or like any of the top guys they pull out for the big events.
The big money makers, the things that they probably at this point in time know will sell, so they keep those guys in reserve for that. The rest of the people, they just stick on whatever they can push out for as minimum viable product.
Pretty much, because like I think Zach touched on that the problem with Steve McNiven is that he's gotten too expensive for them.
Yeah, it's not like they can't afford him, you know. It's pretty much down to budgetary reasons. They don't want to budget for the proper art, so because they want to put in the minimum amount and get maximum returns on it, they've become a completely bureaucratic company. It's not about the creation for them anymore. Because they are now owned completely by a bunch of bean counters, they don't care about what it is. Just as long as it can be sold, doesn't matter how bad, it's out the door, and whatever beans it brings in, they're happy with. They don't care about if it's good or not.
Yeah, well, their comics are not bringing in money at all.
Yeah, it's starting to bite them slowly but surely.
To be honest, though, this is a problem they could solve if they just trim back the number of titles. Like I remember back when we were running the Kickstarter, I made a meme that it was that meme from that anime Charlotte. Charlotte, you had that girl presenting Mythoverse comics to the guy, and then he holds up another Marvel relaunch, and she's just like, ah. and then Eric came in. Got in the thread and said, you know what, I'll take the Mythoverse comics. I've got about 5 Spider-Man comics, and they're all number ones.
Yeah.
Why does Spider-Man need 5 different comics? Like, okay, look at this.
The myth of the variant cover.
I'm just gonna say, Peter makes you like at the most you should have is maybe like 2, Peter and Miles.
Yeah.
The reason there's so many number 1 comics, I've seen it a couple of times, people have discussed it at length on Twitter, is it's a number 1. Ooh, it's something. It must be something new. They prey on people's gullibility and the fervent belief and hold on to hope that it's a number one. They rebooted it. It is hopefully good again. And for that first issue, it is good. More often than not, 90% of the time, from what I've seen, the first issue, the number one that they bring out, is a good book. From there on, it's all down. There are exceptions to the rules, but for the majority of the time, the first book of the soft reboot, relaunch, whatever you want to call it, good book, good art, good writing, and then they don't care after that because they've made money again. Look, we're still selling, and then they don't care. And then wash, rinse, repeat, reboot, relaunch.
Hey, look, Vile's in the chat now.
Hey, Val.
But yeah, I think they're also playing to the speculator market a little bit.
That's very true. It's also very possible because everybody's hoping for the next big number one, like Action Comics number one from the 30s. But once again, rarity is the key deciding factor why those things are selling gangbusters on auction. Modern comics are not rare. Modern comics are not in any way, shape, or form any form of value. They do not hold any value because they're not rare. It is a complete and total market oversaturation. This is the same thing.
Yeah, they ran into this problem back in the 90s. This is essentially the same thing they did. With the gimmick covers and everything. It's just...
Yeah, and now they're just rerunning that. It's history repeating itself. It's fucking Matrix, and we just ran into deja vu.
I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. Like, how can you fall back into that when it did not work the first time?
Try again. That's their thing.
Yeah, but still be like, you're playing it.
The definition of insanity. This is a pure distillation of the exact meaning of what it means to be insane. You keep trying the same thing over and over again, and you keep expecting a different results.
I don't even. Look, I've never run a business, and even I wouldn't do this. Like, what does that say?
Or alternatively, like I said, they've found a formula that works for the bean counters, and they just keep doing that same thing over again because this is the only thing that still makes them money. That big events.
It's barely bringing them in money, man.
But it's still making them money. Barely, but it is making money. It's not making them all the money, but it is at least, quote unquote, keeping the lights on, as it were.
Yeah, like
Like I said, I just don't understand it.
Actually, I understand it perfectly well. It is the sheer mentality of we're going to keep doing this and we're going to keep driving this because this is still making us money, and to hell with the consequences. It is the same thing that you can see in any single industry where they have become beholden more than anybody else. Are driven, they are required. Otherwise, they are beholden to the shareholders and the investors. So it doesn't matter what they do. Money has to be made regardless of anything else.
Yeah, but the shareholders are
The
going
same thing is happening in video games, Electronic Arts. Anthem is the example I'm going to throw out here. That game had no reason to launch at all in the state that it did. It had no reason to exist. But yet, because they had shareholders and they needed to get a game out, it was shoved out the door unceremoniously, and to hell with everything else. Now they are going to fall back on but this and that and all whatever excuses they come up with, but it made a little bit of money. It probably didn't even recoup the investment cost for the development time they spent on that thing. And not to mention the fact that they had to pull staff off other projects to try and get this dumpster fire out the door. But the fact of the matter remains, they had to get something out the door, and they did, regardless of whether or not it's good. Fallout 76, same idea. They pushed it out the door way too early. However, Bethesda at least had the balls to stick with it and try to rectify the ship, regardless of the backlash they received. Ubisoft with the First Division, even Rainbow Six Siege, 2 games that were one point in time. But however, they stuck with it, and now they're actually decent titles. The First Division finished off strong, and the rest is history. But the problem with comics are, it's not like software where you can incrementally fix it later on.
Yeah, once it's
And
out, it's
unfortunately-
out.
Yeah, it's out. And unfortunately, these brands are so tainted with the horrendous treatment that the creators have done to the various readers and former core demographics and everything, that unless there's a complete and total paradigm shift, it's not going to happen. And unfortunately, it comes down to the fact that, once again, it is down to the bean counters at large from the House of Mouse and whoever else is pulling the strings from Warner Brothers. These things are going to continue to go down the spiral. They're going to keep giving them to these writers that want to push their own ideologies, their own belief systems, onto characters that it doesn't fit with. I mean, I've read enough Twitter rants right now to know the whole sordid saga of Tom King and everything else, and everybody and Don Cates. It's just like, fine, these people are going to write these characters. Railing against it's not going to help. The only way that these people are going to eventually learn their lesson is either they implode the market themselves, because unfortunately the whole thing that was tried was to support only good books from good writers and good artists didn't pan out, because then what they thought was, well, these people, because of the demographic reasons and the buzzword was at the time, now all the books are, well, not all the books, but majority of the books are now shit due to those reasons. So either they get the message, or unfortunately the comics industry as we know it from the big two sinks. I mean, when it happens, it happens. I'm not going to throw out predictions. It is a fool's errand to try and do it, because people have been predicting
Go either way
the
at
death.
this-
Sorry?
It could go either way at this point.
Yeah. Look, it could go either way. It's all going to depend on whether or not the people realize that, listen, this outrage train that we're on, it's not healthy, it's not working. And they either implement policies to right the ship with their more radical elements within their company, or they go the way of the dodo. I mean, it's already happened with a lot of the so-called woke media outlets like Vox and Vice and those places.
Yep.
Selling the buildings, downsizing. The fact that Kotaku recently, well, they're on the verge of getting shit canned entirely, to be perfectly honest.
You know, I think
Due to
it's
the fact that people aren't buying into their click and outrage baits anymore. The same thing's going. It's a slow process. It's a horrendous process. I hate that people lose their jobs. I really do, especially considering I live in a country where we have a horrendous unemployment rate. So, yeah, I kind of can sympathize. But then on the other hand, I'm also looking at it, but you did this to yourself.
Yep. You know the funny
You
thing
did
about
this to yourself.
the funny thing about Vice is that Gavin McInnes is a co-founder, or at least was a co-founder.
He was one of the founders. Yeah, he was. But he kind of left early on because they were just right when Vice steered right steered right into the hard left direction, that's when you left.
Yep.
You know, I can actually look at something like that similar when I'm looking at the past of our former gaming websites and gaming forums we had here in South Africa. At one point in time, it was also due to the rise of woke people and the employment of feminists onto the staff, believe it or not. It wasn't as outright as it was with places like Kotaku and such, but it was definitely more subtle. And it definitely did tank the brands close to the end. Now, one of the more popular ones, if unfortunately the website's down, nobody ever archived thing for our local, one of our biggest gaming websites on right around from the early 2012s to right around when GG went really big, 2014-ish. I could say this, that the website was called My Gaming. They employed a feminist writer by the name of Taryn van der Bijl, and she was, she was getting very close to being militant bra burner feminist. Any sort of title that had any sort of female character in it, obviously, was derided this way, that way. Any game with a strong male protagonist, believe it or not, that showed any sort of prominence or should, look like the manly men that she obviously idealized, like Soap from the Modern Warfare series, she wrote gushing articles about. It's like not the anti-men feminist, the misandrist feminist, but definitely feminist leaning. And from there on, the biggest paradigm shift for the website and the forum in general was when, I think in 2013-ish, one of the former lead editor of the website and owner of the website, incidentally, Nick Simmons, left. The website was taken over by another guy, and from there on, you started getting the gamers, the people who wore their sexual identification as this is who and what I am, and even in their bios prominently, it wasn't just gamer. They had to go with the GAMER, put it, just throw it out there and rub it in your face. And from there on, this was around late 2013. The content started going horribly sideways when everything started being psychoanalyzed. And I mean, everybody knows what happened to gaming websites once that shit started up.
Yep.
Yeah. How can anyone forget that?
And so it's just funny that I'm starting to think about it, because this was a forum I was quite active on. And where at one point in time they would, when the former editor Nick Simmons was around, they actually accepted pieces from the community. Now, I even wrote a small article about why RTS games wouldn't work as MMOs, and was actually, considering for South Africa, was a well-received article. I was requested to do a follow-up. I got around to doing it just as Nick Simmons left, and they never published it because apparently I wasn't woke enough or some shit, I suppose. I don't know, but the whole thing was, the article wasn't being anything that I wrote, so it was an opinion piece. And then in late 2014, the website closed down, the actual main website, and only the forum remained active. And then in late 2015, the forum shut down finally as well, because engagement from the website dwindled to such a degree due to the woke people that they couldn't sustain themselves and they shut down. So yeah, woke politics killed a lot of things everywhere. Yeah, was the most prominent. Now they're gone.
Yeah, but still,
Kind of
though, I
sad,
think
really.
it is sad, but still, with the benefit of hindsight, I mean, like, Gamergate really did not accomplish anything. It's like, I mean, I'm not really sure. It kind of just fizzled out, didn't it?
Yeah, there are there are those who claim that Gamergate was the one that killed Gawker, but
That was Hulk Hogan.
oh yeah, don't take away the victory from the guy in a do-rag.
From my perspective, being a fairly late picking up on everything, all the threads, in hindsight to Gamergate, because when Gamergate really got into full swing, I actually retreated from the internet. I got off social media. I didn't go into forums anymore. I avoided news websites. I was only watching a few videos on YouTube here and there, and mostly just playing games because the gamers are dead articles and shit. I was like, yeah, I don't want any part of this, and I just fucked off. So, with a bit of hindsight and somebody who missed the whole shit show in regards to Gamergate, I'd say it was a mixed bag. They did, to a degree, manage the core goal, which was to highlight the highly unethical and improper practices by games journalists and games media websites to the point where they are suffering today. They really are. So on that side, I would say it's a win. However, where they did fail was they didn't manage to carry the momentum, trying to get the shit away from the developers and the publishers because of unfortunate and people who love to use buzzwords, angry, nasty people, and all that kind of stuff. They did not manage to block that because they were too slow to react and recognize the patterns. Because they were so anally retentively obsessed with one or two key figures, they did not notice the systemic rot setting in all over the place. Because they were so focused on the Sarkeesians and the Quins and the Woos and all that stuff, they failed to see the woods for the trees. They completely laser focused on a few key figures. They missed the whole fucking picture. That is unfortunately where Gamergate went horrendously and horribly wrong. That is how they failed. So it's a mixed bag. They kind of accomplished something, the thing that they originally set out to do, but they failed to rectify something else that they could have affected had they, recognized the threats.
Not only that, I think some of the bigger personalities like Sargon and Argon moved away from Gamergate.
Thanks, my mom.
Like, started saying like, okay, yeah, this is a problem, but there's even bigger problems. We gotta go save Western civilization, right?
Huh.
And then
I think inadvertently
the skeptics kind of more or less like kind of spawned from Gamergate.
That's exactly, and they ate themselves in the end because after their main target effectively evaporated like mist in front of the sun, they only had each other still to pretty much phase down. And if you remember correctly, they started a lot of them started debunking each other.
They turned on each other, basically.
Pretty much. And
this does sound familiar too.
Not only that, they made the big Tank dropped. But yeah, not only that, the skeptics made the tried taking on the alt-right, and they just completely failed at it.
Yep. Problem is that nobody was willing to agree on a definition as well. What you should probably do when you're taking on an opponent is try to take on an ideology. What you need to do is define the ideology first.
Yeah, that was the problem, because like alt-right kind of meant a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people.
Yep.
It was reductive to just kind of characterize them as just a bunch of Nazi frog memers.
Fortunately,
Hashtag connection died.
Yeah, we figured it out.
yep. Unfortunately, way too many people don't like doing the hard work of defining the ideology you're opposing.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, not to get too distracted, I just went looking on Twitter.
Yeah.
Matt, you're gonna hate this.
What?
Someone's got a Republic of Xeon soldier shaking hands with a Nazi.
Not really, because that's basically what Republic of Xeon became.
Really?
Giran Zavi, who is basically the guy who spearheaded the entire operation during the time of his father's weakness as a ruler, he called himself a Hitler supporter.
But he actually says that.
Yes. He tells us basically what happens in the scene is that he tells Giran, Giran's father tells him not all about Hitler and how Giran was following in his footsteps. And basically, Giran goes off to conduct his plans and says, as he's leaving, watch what this follower of Hitler I can do. To which his father says at the end, remember that Hitler also lost this war.
I can't believe it. They actually had a guy who... Gundam actually has a guy who unironically goes, Hitler did nothing wrong.
Yes, because he was essentially space Hitler himself. He believed in the superiority of people who live in space.
Well,
Okay, so when people are making comparisons between the Republic of Xeon and Nazi Germany, they're actually on the money.
Yes. It's not
shit.
like when they say that
holy shit.
Attack on Titan is Nazi propaganda, because it really isn't. It's Republic of Xeon are basically Nazis.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that version of Gundam, but if I remember correctly, isn't the Republic of Xeon presented as antagonistic?
Yes, at the very beginning, it was more of a Republic of Weimar type of nation state until the Zavis took over. And then Giran takes over after weakening the rule of his father and others, to the point where he actually assassinates his father later on in the show.
I did not understand why people didn't get bent out of shape over the comparison then.
Because people prefer this cleaner looking Xeon. And granted, I don't think the later versions of Xeon, Neo Xeon, and such subscribe to Gihren's ideology. I think that was just himself. But when you look at how Gundam presents Xeon, you really just see them as the space Nazis, but with more sympathetic characters, because these are not. It was not written by an SJW who wanted to say Nazis are evil.
If I remember correctly, wasn't Char part of the Xeon Republic?
His father was the man that the Zabis assassinated to take power. So he had a vested interest in assassinating every Zabi.
I'm gonna be real with you, Matt. Every time you keep saying that, it sounds like you're saying zombie.
Well, when you think about it that way, yeah, they basically are.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's just your voice or the mic.
Might be the mic. Well, yeah, history lesson. The Republic of Xeon in the original Gundam series, Nazis.
Only guess. I think everyone who gets bent out of the shape over the Xeon Nazi thing, they're just Char fanboys, aren't they?
Basically. Or they go with more along the lines of the Neo Xeons and the sympathetic characters in their original series, such as Ron Boral.
Which does not mean knocking Char, though. Char's a great character.
Oh, yeah. He's such a great character that every AU series copies him. And yes, I am knocking the AU series.
Well, Gundam Wing definitely had a guy who was so blatantly a Char clone.
Yep. Also, Gundam Seed. Because Gundam Seed was originally basically their idea of Gundam Seed was it was going to be a reboot of the original Gundam series for the 21st century.
Yeah, and it kind of sucked. Well, Seed was like... It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. Seed Destiny was a righteous pile of shit.
Yep. And the thing... What really gets me annoyed with Gundam Seed was that it didn't really have much in character development. Kira Yamato basically stays the same throughout the series. And there really wasn't any kind of characterization either, or nuance that made the original series good.
Yeah. But yeah, so the takeaway that if someone's a bent out of shape over the Republic of Xeon Nazi comparison, more than likely they're just Char fans or Neo Xeon fans.
Basically. I mean, granted, they could be fans of the idea of what Xeon used to stand for, which was independence from the Earth Federation.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're a fan of the Zabi days of Xeon, then yeah, that basically became a Nazi state.
I still can't believe it that Gihren unironically says, "What could this follower of Hitler can do?"
I've got it on YouTube. I've seen it on YouTube.
It's just like that. Just sound. That's a line that just sounds. You have like even in context, it just sounds unintentionally hilarious.
It was a setup that he has gone too far into his own ideology.
I get that. It's just like I know. It's just like I know I'm quoting it out of context. So you have to imagine even in context, you can't take it seriously. Like
Well, that's also the thing about the character was that he was a charismatic figure with ideas similar to Hitler's.
yeah, but he's still not sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, like Char was so charismatic, you actually rooted for him in Zeta.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is, the Gundam Wing character just copies Tsar's story arc.
Like beat for beat.
Well, watch Gundam Wing completely, and watch the Universal Sensory Gundam series with Suriname. Right, and at the end, you have that moment where the Tsar wannabe tries to drop a massive spaceship onto the Earth to destroy it.
Oh please, Char tried to drop a moon onto the Earth.
Yeah, and well, it was an asteroid.
Thought it was a moon.
Nope, it was an asteroid. That basically what they did was they moved a bunch of asteroids over to in orbit around the Earth and built bases out of them. So he was trying to drop an. They both tried to destroy the Earth, but the one thing that really makes his more that one more watered down was because they both survived.
Huh.
Hero and the main antagonist of the series should both survive.
Hey Tank, in the War of the Beast, doesn't the Beast try to drop a moon onto Terra?
They actually never got that far. I mean, the War of the Beast, they definitely menaced Terra. I mean, just the sheer fuck off rock with gravitic weapons just hanging there was enough to scare people shitless, as far as I know. But based on what I know, they never actually got that far because they actually sent the Imperial Fists, who were wiped out to pretty much the last 100 surviving members, the ones who were manning the wall. That's it. I mean, that is how stupid the fucking High Lords of Terra were. Okay, so we sent out all these people. They all got fucked up. Everybody died. You know what? Let's just send the entire Imperial Fist chapter. And I mean everybody. Even the ones that vowed never to leave Terra. So, yeah, I'm actually happy that Gilliman's back and actually decided, you know what? Fuck you guys. You're all fired.
Yeah. Terra is better off with the Smurf running it.
The Imperium is actually better off with him running it. You're damn right. Super soldiers notwithstanding, yes. Oh, this is interesting.
Huh.
Places you never want to visit, or well, can't visit either because restrictions and shit. Although there's one place I can kind of understand why you would actually never want to go there. Are you ready for this?
Huh.
Snake Island on Brazil.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a name. That's a name that makes you want to go somewhere.
Yeah. About 93 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Snake Island. Researchers estimate that there are between 1 and 5 snakes here per 10 square feet.
Jeez.
The snakes here, specifically golden lanceheads, are known for their venom, which literally disintegrates. Charming. So, would you want to go there?
Probably not. You could probably ask Denise. He's what it's like.
Huh.
He's Brazilian.
Yeah. Well, in Afrikaans, we have a saying, I'm so fucking angry right now, I can go catch snakes. Well, that's the perfect place to go.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, it's an article that popped up here. Forbidden destinations you can never visit. But of course, Area 51 is located there. I mean, why the fuck not?
I mean, it's a military base, so of course you're not going to be able to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Bohemian Grove, United States.
Yeah, I think I can remember Alex Jones doing a thing on that, so take that for what that is.
It hosted the Manhattan Project. Okay, so Grand Shrine in Japan. Heard Island, Australia. Why can't you go here?
Well, why would you want to go to Australia in general? It's full of things
No. This is actually not part of Australia. It's here's the interesting thing though. Heard Island technically belongs to Australia, but is found between Madagascar and Antarctica. So it's actually closer to Africa than it is Australia, but yet, yeah. Humans are not permitted to visit because of wildlife.
Huh.
Located only there. Secret Vatican archives. Well, fucking duh. Hey, look, the Chinese Forbidden City.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, well, the name says it all.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Ah, yes, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Because Muslims.
Huh.
Yeah, if you're not a Muslim, you're not allowed to go there.
Of course.
Niihau Island, close to Hawaii. Only people from the family who purchased this island in 1860 is allowed to go there.
Huh. Oh,
Interesting.
of course.
The Coca-Cola recipe vault.
Yeah.
Funny. UN buffer zone in Cyprus. Yeah, well, you might get shot if you go there. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Yeah, well, obviously you wouldn't want random folks wandering in there. I mean, come on, it's they keep that vault for a reason.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So.
All I
it's
can
cool.
kind of understand why you wouldn't want to go to Fort Knox and the Chernobyl exclusion zone. I mean, fuck, you want some radioactivity in your blood?
No. Although Fort Knox, you could at least try breaking in to get the gold.
Yeah, but why would you want to go mess with a place that has a active tank base right next fucking door?
I know. I'm just saying, at least I can see why someone would try to break in. I
I
didn't
mean,
say it was smart.
let's be perfectly honest. Break into Fort Knox. Let's say you're lucky enough to get in. Now you've got an entire military base with, I believe, over 300 tanks ready to roll.
Huh. Sure, you can try it.
I mean, unless you're fucking Superman. Or an invading army, but hey.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. A lot of other funny places on that list, but some of them make absolutely perfect sense why you wouldn't be able to go in there because you don't have enough fucking money, like a lot of the gentlemen's clubs that they mentioned there.
Oh yeah. It's just so much. This is the first stream we've had since the Kickstarter ended.
Speaking of which, we've got that. Yeah, speaking of which, we got the first edition of Radio Mythoverse on the official Mythoverse channel tonight.
Yep.
Well, good luck with that.
We're gonna be broadcasting from the Discord, and hopefully people on there will show up.
Well, I'm most likely going to be sleeping.
Unfortunately, but
No, fortunately, because tomorrow's work.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Yeah. All right.
You know what I find funny?
What?
Sitting here from an entirely opposite end of the world, laughing at the British who ran a approval poll on Donald Trump versus Obama. I'm like, okay, cool. You did that. Why? Because your opinion somehow is relevant to another country's elections?
Here's the funny. Here's the one thing I have to say about Patrick Stewart. He's anti-Trump, but because he wants to respect the rules of the country he's living in, he went and became a citizen. Might not be the best idea to do so, but at least he's not doing it with the protection of another country.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't fault a lot of people. I mean, my personal take on Trump is, yes, he's an asshole sometimes on Twitter. You can definitely say he's of quite a few things, the way he acts and everything, but you can't deny the results. And I'm saying that purely from looking at how my own government is running my country into the ground.
Sadly.
Yeah, it sucks.
So, yeah. People want to complain about a president in that country while you ain't seen nothing yet.
Huh.
Yeah, it can always get worse. All right, I think we've been going on for about 2 hours.
I think we can call it.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on my laundry and then get some grocery shopping done before I head out to see Godzilla. If anyone that to anyone listening before we go out, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Mythoverse YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can find it. And at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST, that's when we will be having the stream. Yeah, and if you're in the Discord, hope you show up to that. Okay, let me pull it up right now. There we go. And here we are. All right, look. I'll see you guys there tonight. Bye.
Later, guys.
Goodbye.